Captain Hyunwoo looked out at the stars from his ship bridge. The big alien warship was getting closer and closer to their position near the small mining planet. The ship belonged to the Vorthak Empire, and everyone in the galaxy knew they were mean and dangerous. They took what they wanted and hurt anyone who said no. The human ship called Eternal Dawn was not very big. It looked like any other cargo ship that moved things from planet to planet. Most people thought it was just for trading and carrying supplies. But Hyunwoo knew his ship was much more than it looked. Down on the mining planet lived about 200 humans in a small colony. They had been there for 2 years, trying to dig up valuable metals from the ground. The colony. Leader was a smart woman named So Young who knew how to fix machines. Her husband Taemin was also very good with computers and electronics. 3 months ago, something bad had happened. The colony's life support machines started breaking down. The air was getting bad and the water was not clean anymore. People were getting sick and scared. They sent out a distress call asking for help. Hyunwoo and his crew heard the call and came right away. They found the colony in big trouble. The Vorthak had been demanding money from the colonists every month. If the colonists did not pay, the Vorthak said they would destroy everything and everyone. The colonists were simple people who just wanted to live in peace. They were miners and farmers and teachers. They did not have weapons or soldiers. They could not fight the Vorthak warships. So they tried to pay, but the Vorthak kept asking for more and more money. When Hyunwoo arrived, he told the colonists not to worry. His crew would help fix their machines and make everything work again. So Young was very grateful. She had never seen humans like Hyunwoo and his people before. Most humans in the galaxy were known as peaceful traders. They moved cargo from one place to another. They fixed machines and built things. They were polite and friendly and never started fights. Other alien races thought humans were weak because they did not have claws or fangs or thick armor. Hyunwoo's crew looked just like other human traders. His weapons. Specialist Ji-hoon looked like a young man who just knew about machines. He was always smiling and helping people fix things. He taught the colonists how to repair their equipment and showed them how to make their defenses stronger, but he was very careful to make it look like he was just helping with normal maintenance. The communications officer Yoon-ji was a quiet woman who seemed to spend all her time working on computers and radios. She was always polite and spoke softly to everyone, but while she was helping the colonists fix their communication systems, she was also secretly listening to Vorthak radio messages. She learned their patrol schedules and where their ships went. For 3 months, the crew of the Eternal Dawn lived with the colonists. They ate meals together and played games with the children. They helped old people with their daily work and taught young people new skills. Everyone in the colony started to think of them as family, but the whole time, Hyunwoo and his crew were preparing. The cargo holds of their ship looked like they were full of mining equipment and trade goods, but hidden underneath were weapons and armor that most people had never seen. The peaceful-looking crew members were actually trained soldiers who had fought in wars before. The Vorthak commander Gorthak had been watching the human ship for weeks. He thought it would be easy to take over. He had seen many human ships before, and they always ran away when faced with real fighters. He decided this would be a good time to attack, because he believed the humans would be too scared to fight back. Gorthak did not know that humans came from a very dangerous planet called Earth. On Earth, everything was trying to kill everything. Else, the weather was deadly. The animals were fierce, the plants were poisonous. Humans had to become very smart and very tough, just to survive. Other alien races came from easier worlds. Some came from planets with no dangerous animals. Others came from places where the weather was always nice. They did not understand that humans had spent millions of years learning how to hunt and fight and survive. The Vorthak thought they were the most dangerous fighters in the galaxy. They had thick skin and sharp teeth and claws. They were bigger and stronger than humans, but they had never had to deal with creatures as clever and determined as humans could be. As the Vorthak warship got closer, Hyunwoo smiled, but his smile was different now. It was not the friendly smile he had shown to the colonists. It was the smile of a hunter who had found his prey. He touched a button on his control panel and sent a message to the colony. So Young, this is Captain Hyunwoo. Take everyone to the underground shelters we helped you build. Stay there until we tell you it's safe. The Vorthak are coming, but don't worry, we will take care of this. So Young was scared, but she trusted Hyunwoo. Over the past 3 months, she had seen how much he and his crew cared about the colonists. They had worked day and night to help everyone. They had shared their food when supplies were low. They had stayed up late helping sick people get better. What So Young did not know was that those same gentle people who had been so kind to her family were now getting ready to do something terrible to anyone who threatened their new friends. All over the Eternal Dawn, crew members were changing. They moved differently now. Instead of the slow, careful movements of peaceful traders, they moved like dangerous animals. Their eyes became hard and cold. They checked their weapons and put on armor that had been hidden for months. Ji-hoon was no longer the friendly young man who helped fix machines. Now he looked like what? He really was a soldier who had learned to fight on the worst battlefields in human space. He had once spent 6 months hunting enemy soldiers through the jungles of a poison world. Yoonji was not just a quiet computer expert anymore. She was a specialist in electronic warfare who could break into enemy systems and turn their own technology against them. She had been listening to Vorthak communications so long that she knew their battle plans better than some of their own officers. Hyunwoo stood up from his captain chair and looked at his crew. They had all volunteered for this mission because they knew what it really meant. They were not just protecting one small colony. They were showing the galaxy that humans were not as helpless as everyone thought. The Vorthak ship was now close enough that they could see its weapons. The ship was 3 times bigger than the Eternal Dawn and had enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But size and firepower were not the only things that mattered in a fight. Soon Vorthak would learn that the gentle humans who had been living peacefully on the mining colony for 3 months were actually some of the most dangerous predators the galaxy had ever seen. They had just been hiding their true nature behind kind smiles and helpful actions. The time for hiding was over. The Vorthak had made the mistake of threatening people that humans cared about. Now they were going to discover why humans were the only species that had ever turned a death world into a garden and then spread across the stars. Hyunwoo looked at the approaching enemy ship and felt the ancient hunting instincts of his species wake up inside him. The Vorthak thought they were about to capture some helpless traders. Instead, they were about to learn what happened when you cornered a pack of Earth predators who had something precious to protect. Vorthak sat in his command chair on the bridge of his warship and looked at the human vessel through his screen. The Eternal Dawn looked old and beaten up, like it had been flying around the galaxy for many years, carrying cargo from one place to another. The hull was covered with scratches and dents that came from loading and unloading heavy boxes at busy spaceports. The Vorthak commander felt very confident about this attack. He had studied human ships before, and they were always the same. Humans did not like to fight. They preferred to talk and make deals. When faced with real danger, they would usually give up quickly or run away as fast as possible. Vorthak had attacked 17 different ships in the past year. Most of them belonged to weak species who begged for mercy before he even fired his weapons, but human ships were the easiest targets of all. They carried valuable cargo, and their crews never fought back hard enough to cause any real problems. Intelligence reports from other Vorthak raiders said that humans were soft and weak. They came from a planet with nice weather and plenty of food. They had never learned how to be real warriors like the Vorthak, who grew up fighting each other for every scrap of meat and drop of water. The Vorthak homeworld was a harsh place where only the strongest survived. The weak were eaten by the strong, and only the most vicious fighters lived long enough to have children. This made every Vorthak a natural-born killer who enjoyed violence and conquest. Looking at the human ship, Vorthak could see that it had very few weapons. Most cargo vessels only carried small defensive guns that were meant to scare away pirates, not fight real warships. His own vessel had enough firepower to blow the human ship into tiny pieces in just a few minutes. But Vorthak did not want to destroy the ship. He wanted to capture it and take everything valuable, including the crew. Humans were excellent workers who could be sold as slaves in the Outer Rim territories. Their technical skills made them worth a lot of money to buyers who needed smart workers. Prepare the boarding pods. Vorthak told his second-in-command. We will take their ship without damaging it too much. The humans will surrender as soon as they see our warriors coming aboard. Then we can sell them and their cargo for a very good price. His lieutenant nodded and began giving orders to the boarding teams. 72 of the best Vorthak fighters on the ship started getting ready for the attack. They put on their armor and checked their weapons. Each boarding pod would carry 6 warriors who were trained to capture enemy ships quickly and efficiently. The Vorthak warriors were much bigger and stronger than humans. They had thick scaly skin that could stop small weapons and sharp claws that could tear metal. Their teeth were designed for ripping meat, and their eyes could see in almost complete darkness. They had been bred for war over thousands of generations on the human ship. Something very different was happening. Captain Yun Wu was walking through the corridors talking to his crew members, but his voice was calm and quiet. He did not seem worried or scared about the approaching enemy warship. Instead, he seemed almost pleased, like he had been waiting for this moment. Ji-hoon was in the weapons bay checking equipment that had been hidden under false floor panels. For months, these weapons had been disguised as mining tools and repair equipment. Now he was pulling out military-grade assault rifles and combat armor that would make a Vorthak warrior think twice about fighting. The weapons were not just any ordinary guns. They were designed specifically for fighting in the close quarters of a spaceship. Each rifle could fire different types of ammunition, including rounds that would not pierce the hull and cause dangerous decompression. Other rounds were designed to stop heavily armored enemies, like the Vorthakian GI was at her communication station, but she was not just listening to radio messages anymore. She was actively breaking into the Vorthak ship's computer systems using skills she had learned during her time in human military intelligence. She could see exactly how many warriors were coming and what their battle plan looked like. The Vorthak were planning to board the ship at 12 different points. They thought this would overwhelm any resistance and allow them to capture key areas like the bridge and engine room before the humans could organize any kind of defense. They had used this same strategy many times before against other species. What the Vorthak did not know was that the human crew had been preparing for exactly this kind of attack. The ship had been modified over the past 3 months with hidden passages and secret rooms. The lighting system could be controlled from multiple locations, allowing the defenders to create darkness wherever they wanted. The cargo bays that looked full of mining equipment actually contained sophisticated defense systems. Some of the boxes were really weapons caches, while others held medical supplies and communication gear. Everything had been carefully planned and positioned for maximum effectiveness during a boarding. Action Hyun-woo gathered his crew in the main meeting room. But this was not the same group of friendly traders who had been helping the colonists fix their machines. These people moved like trained soldiers and spoke in short, efficient sentences. They had done this kind of thing before and they were very good at it. The captain looked at each of his crew members and saw the same cold determination in their eyes that he felt in his own heart. The colonists down on the planet were like family to them now. They had shared meals and stories and helped raise each other's children. Anyone who threatened those people was going to pay a very high price. We all know what we signed up for when we took this job, Hyun-woo said quietly. The galaxy thinks humans are weak because we choose to be peaceful most of the time. But peaceful does not mean helpless. These Vorthak are about to learn the difference. Ji-hoon smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the expression of a predator who had caught the scent of prey. The Vorthak think they are the most dangerous species in the galaxy because they have big teeth and claws. But they have never faced anything like what humans become when someone threatens our family. Yoon-ji looked up from her computer screen. Captain, I am reading the Vorthak boarding pods. They are launching now. 12 pods with 6 warriors each, all armed with standard plasma weapons and boarding equipment. They expect to have the ship secured within 15 minutes. Hyun-woo nodded and activated the ship's internal communication system. Attention all crew members. We have incoming boarders. Assume defensive positions and remember your training. These aliens have made the mistake of threatening people we care about. Show them what that mistake costs. Throughout the ship, crew members who had spent months pretending to be simple cargo haulers were transforming into something completely different. They moved to pre-planned positions and readied weapons that had been hidden since before they arrived at the colony. The trap was set and the prey was walking right into it. The Vorthak boarding pods attached to the hull of the Eternal Dawn, with loud metallic clangs that echoed through the corridors. Gorthak watched from his command ship as his warriors prepared to cut through the airlocks. He expected to receive reports of quick victory within minutes. Instead, he was about to witness something that would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for years to come. The gentle human traders were about to show the Vorthak what apex predators looked like when they stopped pretending to be something else. The first Vorthak boarding pod hit the side of the Eternal Dawn with a loud bang that made the whole ship shake. Inside the pod, 6 heavily armed warriors were getting ready to cut through the hull and storm into what they thought would be a ship full of scared traders. Warrior Captain Zethak was leading this boarding party. He had done this same thing dozens of times before. Most species would panic when they saw Vorthak warriors coming. Most would surrender immediately or try to hide in their rooms like frightened children. Zethak activated his plasma cutter and began burning through the hull metal. The cutting tool made bright sparks as it sliced through the ship's outer wall. Behind him, his 5 warriors checked their weapons and prepared to rush through the opening as soon as it was big enough. What none of them knew was that every move they made was being watched. Yunji had planted tiny cameras and sensors all over the ship's hull months ago. She could see exactly where each boarding pod was attached and how long it would take them to break through. Captain Hyun-woo stood in the ship's command center watching multiple screens that showed him everything happening around his vessel. He could see all 12 boarding pods, and he knew exactly how many warriors were in each one. The Vorthak thought they were surprising the humans, but actually, they were walking into a carefully planned trap. As soon as the first boarding pod broke through the hull, the section of ship around it went completely dark. The humans had cut all power to that area, leaving the Vorthak warriors in total blackness. The aliens were not worried because their eyes could see well in low-light conditions, but what the Vorthak could not see were the special devices that Ji-hoon had installed throughout the ship. These thermal dampeners hid the heat signatures of human bodies, making them invisible to the aliens' advanced sensors. The humans could move like ghosts through their own ship while the invaders stumbled around blind. The first Vorthak warrior climbed through the hole in the hull and looked around carefully. He held his plasma rifle ready to shoot at any humans who might be hiding nearby. Behind him, his teammates were getting ready to spread out and secure the boarding area. The warrior took 3 steps into the dark corridor before something dropped down from the ceiling above him. Yunji had been waiting in a maintenance shaft for exactly this moment. She landed on the warrior's back and drove a combat knife between the plates of his armor. Before he could even cry out for help, the warrior fell to the floor, dead without making a sound. His teammates heard nothing because Yunji had struck so quickly, and precisely that he never had a chance to raise an alarm. The other 5 warriors continued moving forward, thinking their leader was still alive and scouting ahead. Ji-hoon was waiting around the next corner with a weapon that looked nothing like the mining tools he had been carrying for the past 3 months. This was a military assault rifle designed specifically for fighting in spaceships. It fired special bullets that would stop armored enemies without damaging the ship's hull. The second Vorthak warrior walked right into Ji-hoon's line of fire. The human soldier had been trained on worlds where missing your first shot meant death. He did not miss. The warrior dropped immediately, and Ji-hoon was already moving to his next position before the body hit the floor. Within 5 minutes, the entire first boarding party was dead. None of them had managed to fire a single shot or send any kind of warning back to their command ship. The humans had eliminated 6 heavily armed warriors without taking any damage themselves. But this was just the beginning. 11 more boarding pods were attached to different parts of the Eternal Dawn, and each one carried 6 more warriors who thought they were about to capture a helpless cargo ship. The second boarding party broke through the hull near the ship's engine room. They expected to find frightened engineers trying to hide behind their machines. Instead, they found 3 human crew members who moved like trained killers and fought like cornered animals defending their cubs. These humans had spent months getting to know every inch of their ship. They knew which corridors provided the best cover and which rooms could be turned into kill zones. They used the ship's own systems against the invaders, cutting power and oxygen to some areas while flooding others with blinding light. The Vorthak warriors were bigger and stronger than humans, but size and strength meant nothing when you could not see your enemy or predict where. They would attack from the humans struck from the shadows using their superior knowledge of the ship's layout. To always have the advantage, One by one, the boarding parties were destroyed. The Vorthak warriors, who had expected to face weak traitors, instead found themselves fighting opponents who seemed to know their every move before they made it. The humans anticipated where the aliens would go, and were always waiting with deadly traps. Back on the Vorthak command ship, Gorthak was starting to feel worried. His boarding teams should have secured key areas of the human vessel by now. They should be sending regular reports about their progress and how many prisoners they had captured. Instead, there was only silence. Every few minutes, Gorthak tried to contact his warriors, but none of them responded to his calls. His communication officer checked and rechecked the equipment, but everything seemed to be working properly. The boarding teams were simply not answering. "Lieutenant, what is the status of our boarding operation?" Gorthak demanded from his second-in-command. "Sir, we have received no communications from any of the 12 teams. All pods successfully attached and breached the hull. But after that, we lost contact with everyone." Gorthak felt a cold fear growing in his stomach. He had been raiding ships for 20 years, and he had never seen anything like this. Even the most heavily defended vessels usually managed to get off at least a few distress calls or damage reports before being overwhelmed. On the human ship, the last of the boarding parties was being systematically eliminated. Hyun-woo watched his crew work with deadly efficiency. Each team of humans moved like a pack of predators who had been hunting together for years. They communicated without words and struck without mercy. The Vorthak had made the fatal mistake of threatening people that humans cared about. The colonists on the planet below were not just strangers that the crew had helped. They had become family, and humans would do absolutely anything to protect their family. As the final Vorthak warrior fell, Ji-hoon activated his communication device. "Captain, all boarding parties have been neutralized. 0 human casualties. Enemy forces eliminated. With extreme prejudice." Hyun-woo smiled the cold smile of a successful hunter. The Vorthak commander was probably wondering why his people were not answering their radios. It was time to have a conversation and explain exactly what had happened to his 72 elite warriors. The hunt was over and the predators had won. Gorthak paced back and forth on his command bridge, feeling more nervous with each passing minute. His boarding operation should have been finished by now. 72 of his best warriors had attacked what looked like a simple cargo ship full of peaceful traders. But somehow none of them were responding to his calls. The Vorthak commander had raided hundreds of ships during his long career. He knew how these operations were supposed to work. His warriors would break into the enemy vessel, kill anyone who resisted, and then start herding prisoners toward the cargo bays. Usually the whole process took less than an hour, but something was very wrong with this attack. His tactical display showed that all 12 boarding pods had successfully attached to the human ship. The cutting tools had worked perfectly, and each team should have been inside the vessel within minutes after that. Yet when he tried to contact his team leaders, he got nothing but silence. His communication officer had checked all the equipment multiple times. Everything seemed to be working correctly on their end. The problem had to be on the human ship, sir. "Perhaps their ship has some kind of jamming device," suggested his lieutenant. "Maybe our warriors are fine, but they just cannot send messages back to us." Gorthak wanted to believe this explanation, but his instincts told him something much worse was happening. He had not survived this long by ignoring his gut feelings when they warned him of danger on. The Eternal Dawn Captain Hyun-woo was standing in a corridor that was covered with alien blood. The bodies of Vorthak warriors lay where they had fallen, but these were not the random casualties of a desperate fight. This looked more like the aftermath of a carefully planned hunting expedition. The humans had not just defeated the boarding parties, they had completely destroyed them, using tactics that would have impressed the most experienced military commanders. The crew had turned their own ship into a maze of death traps that eliminated the invaders with surgical precision. Hyun-woo activated his personal communication device and called down to the colony on the planet below. "So Young, this is Captain Hyun-woo. Are you and your people safe in the underground shelters?" So Young's voice came back, immediately sounding worried and scared. "Captain, we can see the Vorthak warship from our hiding places. Are you all right up there?" "We heard some kind of explosions. We are fine," Hyun-woo replied, calmly as he stepped over the body of a Vorthak warrior who had been foolish enough to threaten his engineering crew. Stay in the shelters until we give you the all-clear signal. This will all be over very soon." What so? Young did not know was that the gentleman who had spent months helping her colony repair their machines was now standing in a corridor filled with the bodies of enemies who had made the mistake of threatening people he cared about. Ji-hoon appeared at his captain's side, wiping alien blood from his combat knife. All boarding parties eliminated, sir. No human casualties reported. The Vorthak thought they were boarding a cargo ship, but they walked into a slaughterhouse instead. Hyun-woo nodded with satisfaction. His crew had performed exactly as he had expected. They were not just skilled fighters. They were human beings who had been pushed into a corner and forced to reveal their true nature, and the true nature of humans was something that most aliens did not understand. Yun. G-voice came through their tactical communication network. "Captain, I have been monitoring Vorthak military frequencies. Their command ship is requesting immediate status reports from all boarding teams." The commander sounds very worried. It was time. To end this charade, Hyun-woo had let the Vorthak think they were attacking helpless traders long enough. Now he was going to show them what they had really gotten themselves into. "NG, patch me through to the Vorthak command ship. It's time we had a conversation with their leader." The main screen on the bridge activated and showed the face of Gorthak. The Vorthak commander looked confused and angry. His reptilian features were twisted with worry, and his eyes showed the first signs of fear. Behind Gorthak, Hyun-woo could see other Vorthak officers working frantically at their stations. They were probably trying to figure out what had happened to their boarding parties and why none of their warriors were responding to radio calls. "Human captain," Gorthak snarled through the communication link. "Return my warriors immediately, or I will destroy your pathetic vessel and everyone on the planet below." Hyun-woo stepped into view of the camera, and Gorthak got his first real look at the man he had thought would be an easy victim. The human captain was not the frightened traitor that Gorthak had expected. Instead, he was looking at someone with cold, dead eyes that spoke of battlefields and violence. Gone was any pretense of being a peaceful merchant. The man facing Gorthak through the screen looked like a professional killer who had seen too much death and dealt too much pain. His expression was calm, but there was something terrifying in his stillness. "Your warriors are dead," Hyun-woo said in a voice that was as cold as the vacuum of space. "All 72 of them. They came aboard my ship with the intention of harming people who are under my protection. That was a fatal mistake on their part." Gorthak's eyes widened with shock and disbelief. 72 elite Vorthak warriors eliminated by what he had assumed was a crew of harmless cargo haulers. It was impossible. No species in the galaxy could fight that effectively against trained Vorthak soldiers. "You are lying," the Vorthak commander sputtered. "My warriors are the finest fighters in the galaxy. They cannot be defeated by soft, weak humans who spend their time fixing machines and growing food." Ji-hoon appeared on the screen beside his captain. "Show him," he said simply. The camera view switched to show the corridors of the Eternal Dawn. Vorthak bodies were scattered throughout the ship, but these were not the chaotic remains of a desperate last stand. This was the systematic elimination of an invasion force by superior predators. Each warrior had been killed quickly and efficiently. Many had been taken down without ever seeing their attackers. Others had been eliminated by tactics so brutal and effective that they spoke of millions of years of evolutionary experience in hunting. Dangerous prey. Gorthak stared at the images in horror. In all his years of conquest and raiding, he had never seen such clinical precision. His warriors had not just been defeated. They had been hunted down and slaughtered like animals. "What are you?" he whispered, barely able to speak. "We are humans," Hyun-woo replied. "You made the same mistake that many species make when they encounter our kind. You saw our willingness to help others and mistook it for weakness. You saw our preference for peace and thought it meant we could not wage war. The truth is that humans are apex predators who learned long ago that the best way to survive is to be more dangerous than anything that threatens us. We choose to be peaceful because we know what we are capable of when we decide to stop being peaceful." Gorthak was beginning to understand that he had made a terrible error in judgment. These were not the soft traders he had been told about. These were something much more dangerous, something that had been hiding behind a mask of kindness and helpfulness. The Vorthak commander realized that he was not dealing with prey. He was facing predators who had been pretending to be harmless until the moment they needed to kill. Gorthak looked around his bridge at officers who were staring at their displays in complete shock. They had all seen the images from inside the human ship. Their elite boarding force had been completely wiped out by enemies they had thought were helpless traitors. The Vorthak commander felt something he had not experienced in many years. Fear was creeping up his spine as he realized that everything he thought he knew about humans was completely wrong. These were not the soft, peaceful species that intelligence reports had described. "Human captain, I do not understand how this is possible," Gorthak said, trying to keep his voice steady. "My warriors have conquered dozens of worlds. They have never been defeated so completely by any enemy." Hyun Woo smiled, but there was no warmth in his expression. "That is because you have never faced humans who were protecting something they loved. You saw us helping colonists and thought we were weak servants. You did not realize you were looking at a pack of predators who had adopted those people as family." The human captain gestured toward his crew members who were visible on the communication screen. Ji-hoon stood cleaning his weapons with the casual efficiency of someone who had done this many times before. Yoonji was monitoring multiple computer systems while tracking the positions of every ship in the system. These people spent 3 months living with the colonists on the planet below. Hyun-woo continued. They shared meals with families, played games with children, and helped elderly people with their daily tasks. The colonists became their family, and humans will do absolutely anything to protect their family. Gorthak was starting to understand just how badly he had miscalculated. The humans had not been serving the colonists out of weakness or subservience. They had been forming emotional bonds that made them infinitely more dangerous than any professional army on Earth, our home world. Everything tries to kill everything. Else Hyun-woo explained. The weather can freeze you or burn you to death in minutes. The animals are all either trying to eat you or poison you. The plants will make you sick if you touch them wrong. Humans became the dominant species on that world, not because we were the biggest or strongest, but because we were the smartest and most determined. We learned that the best way to survive was to be more dangerous than anything that wanted to hurt us. The Vorthak commander felt his confidence crumbling. As he listened to this explanation, his own species had evolved on a harsh world, but nothing like what the human was describing. Vorthak had to fight each other for resources, but they had never faced a planet that was actively trying to kill them every single day. Yoonji's voice came through the bridge speakers. "Captain, I am detecting weapon systems powering up on the Vorthak vessel. They are preparing to fire their main guns." Gorthak straightened up in his command chair, trying to regain some of his lost authority. "You may have defeated my boarding parties, but you are still surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now, or I will turn this entire system into radioactive dust." Hyun-woo laughed, and the sound made every Vorthak on the enemy bridge shiver with fear. That was not the laughter of someone who was afraid. That was the sound a predator makes when it realizes its prey has walked into the perfect trap. Yoonji, activate the gifts that Tai Min and his people helped us install. The space around the Vorthak command ship suddenly blazed with brilliant light as hidden weapon platforms came online. Throughout the asteroid field and around the mining colony, defensive systems that had been disguised as industrial equipment revealed their true purpose. The mining lasers that the colonists had been using to extract ore from asteroids were actually military-grade weapons capable of cutting through the hull of a warship. The excavation charges they used for blasting rock could destroy a ship just as easily. 17 different weapon platforms now had the Vorthak vessel targeted from multiple angles. There was no escape route that would not take them through a crossfire that could destroy their ship in seconds. So Young's voice came through the communication system from the colony. "Captain Gorthak, this is Engineer So Young speaking on behalf of all the colonists. Your ship is now in the targeting systems of our defensive network. We are not soldiers or warriors," the colonist leader continued. "But Captain Hyun-woo and his crew taught us that sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be prepared for war. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from our system, or we will show you why humans make such excellent teachers." Gorthak looked at his tactical display and saw that his ship was completely surrounded. Every weapons platform was locked onto his vessel and ready to fire. The humans and their colonist allies had turned the entire system into a giant trap. "This is impossible," he whispered. How did simple miners and farmers build such sophisticated defenses? They had help. Hyunwoo replied, "We did not just repair their life support systems and fix their machines. We taught them how to defend themselves. We showed them how to turn their industrial equipment into weapons and their mining operation into a fortress. For 3 months, while you were planning this attack, we were preparing for it. We knew you would come eventually because bullies like you always do. You cannot resist attacking people you think are weaker than you." The Vorthak commander realized that he had been completely outmaneuvered. The humans had used his own predictability against him. They had known he would eventually try to raid the colony, so they had spent months turning it into a death trap. "Sir, we need to retreat immediately," his lieutenant urged. "Our shields cannot withstand that much concentrated firepower. If they open fire, we will be destroyed in seconds." Vorthak wanted to refuse to give up, but he was not stupid enough to throw away his life and his crew in a battle he could not win. The humans had proven they were far more dangerous than anyone had realized. "This is not overhuman," he threatened as his ship began backing away from the colony. "I will report this to Vorthak High Command. They will send a fleet to destroy you and everyone you protect." Hyunwoo shook his head slowly. "No, Vorthak, this is over. And when you return to Vorthak space, you are going to tell them exactly what happened here. You're going to explain that humans are not the peaceful traitors they pretend to be. You will tell them that we are apex predators who learned millions of years ago that the best way to protect what we love is to be more dangerous than anything that threatens it. You will warn them that attacking human colonies is a mistake that costs more than they can afford to pay." As the Vorthak warship retreated toward the edge of the system, Yoonji turned to her. "Captain, sir, should we pursue them and finish this?" "No," Hyunwoo replied, watching the enemy vessel disappear into hyperspace. "Let them go. They will spread the word about what happens when someone threatens a human family. That message is worth more than destroying one ship." 3 hours later, Hyunwoo was sitting in So Young and Tai Min kitchen sharing a meal with the colonists they had saved. Children who had been hiding in underground shelters were back to playing their games completely unaware of how close they had come to slavery or death. The colonists looked at their protectors with new understanding. They had always known that Captain Hyunwoo and his crew were special, but now they realized just how special. The gentle people who had helped them repair their machines were also deadly warriors who would kill anyone who threatened their adopted family. "Thank you," So Young said quietly, "for showing us that being kind and being strong are not opposite things." Hyunwoo smiled, and this time it was the warm, gentle expression that the colonists remembered. "That is what humans do," he replied. "We protect our own, and all of you are our own, now." In the depths of space, word was already spreading through Vorthak military channels about the cargo ship crew who had destroyed an entire boarding force without losing a single person. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their numbers. It was their absolute refusal to let harm come to those they had chosen to protect, combined with millions of years of evolutionary experience in being very, very good at eliminating threats permanently. The predators had revealed themselves, and the galaxy would never look at human kindness the same way again.